Beer Mile Nation, we have a first ever on today's episode. We have a live studio audience. The boys are really thirsty back here. Woo! Do you hear that? Do you hear that? We got a live audience here in Colorado, slaying some beers, watching on as I talk to, this is your co-host Chris, Adam, at a wedding today, ditching his duties, not doing any work, the usual, on PTO all the time. This guy doesn't do anything, to be honest. So here I am having a conversation with Woody Kincaid today. This guy's got big cojones, made the Olympic team in 2 different events, won the 10K, got 3rd in the 5K. And so he will be representing Team USA in Tokyo here in about 4 weeks' time in both the 10K and 5K. This is a great conversation. We touch on pretty much everything, his training leading into this, what his expectations are for the Olympics, how he's going to celebrate the Olympic medals when he wins those. Touch on the Shelby situation a little bit as well, and a whole lot more. Just before we get into that, first off, let me just touch on this beer. We got the Exile Brewing Company, Ruthie beer, and we always talk about the graphic designers on this podcast and whether they should be compensated at the minimum wage or above the minimum wage. And I mean, look at this. Look at this. For those of you watching on YouTube, and make sure if you're listening to the audio only version on the podcast platform of your choice that you do tune into YouTube, because we have a video version as well. Link in the description. This lady, this is a talent. So if you look at the Ruthie can here, she's pouring some beers onto a couple glasses on her bosom. Yeah. I mean, that's the nice way to say it. Thank you to the studio audience for chirping in on that one. Absolutely incredible. Hopefully this isn't an intern and this is a shareholder in Exile Brewing Company, because this beer is certainly getting bought more than any other beer solely because of the graphic design. And it tastes pretty good as well. Full review on that in the outro. First, support for this episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Look, guys, you got to start taking care of your family jewels. You can't leave that thing disgusting down there. The studio audience is demonstrating the issues that occur when you don't take care of your nether regions, your down under. And ladies as well, if you have a significant other in your life, or guys, if your partner could use a little help in that area, we got you covered. We have an exclusive deal with Manscaped. You get 20% off your entire order, plus free shipping worldwide if you use our code BeerMile. That's BeerMile, all uppercase, no spaces. Use that at checkout, 20% plus free shipping worldwide. Take care of those family jewels. Even if you're a single guy, it just boosts the confidence. It's just the right thing to do. They have everything. The Lawnmower 4.0 launched recently. It's the best electric razor in the game. Quit using your face trimmer on your pubes. It's absolutely disgusting. You don't want pubes at your mouth. The Lawnmower 4.0 is the best engineered electric razor ever. And also, ladies especially, guys as well, the Performance Package 4.0. It's the perfect gift for anyone in your life. It comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, as well as some aftershave, as well as boxers. The whole package is exactly what you need. Use code BeerMile, all uppercase, no spaces, for 20% off plus free shipping worldwide. And you will not be disappointed. This is an exclusive offer thanks to the Beer Mile Podcast. And just know, by using this code, you're also supporting us here at the Beer Mile Podcast. Last thing I'll plug, as those behind me are slaying beers. Again, YouTube, if you want to see some boys slay some beers. Last thing I'll plug here, we launched a couple new dope shirts on our website. We are accepting any graphic designer that wants to send us a design to create some swag on beermile.com, and we will profit share with any graphic designer out there. We'll handle everything, shipping, inventory, you name it. We do it all here at beermile.com. If you're a graphic designer out there and you have a cool idea for a shirt, for a hat, for anything, send us a design, send us an image file. We'll make it happen and we'll profit share with you as well. So most recently, we're working with @ProdigyRuns on Instagram. Sent over an awesome rendition of the Budweiser logo, tailored specifically to us. He's got all the taglines on there, and there you have it. Free ABV. He's got it all. So check out beermile.com, hit on the shop button, and you will find all the latest swag, including those submitted by our graphic designers out there in the wild, and they're going to get the profits as well. So you're helping grow small business. I mean, it's the right thing to do. All right, that's enough of an intro here. Let's get into this conversation with Woody Kincaid of the Bowerman Track Club. Yee! Woo! Woo, Woody! Cheers, Woody.
Cheers.
Thanks for being on the Beer Mile podcast, especially considering you're only a week off of the Olympic trials, a big double, making the Olympic team in both the 5K and 10K. I know you're a very important man right now. And honestly, I'm surprised that I can even see you in the camera because your cojones are just so big right now after doing the double. That's got to be exciting. So thank you for joining the Beer Mile podcast.
Thank you for having me. Nice intro. I like it.
So how, now that you're about a week after the 5K at the Olympic trials, how are you feeling at this point? Does it feel real? Are you, where's your head at currently? Does it still kind of feel like a little bit of a fantasy, or have you come to the realization and coming down a little bit from it?
It's still a fantasy, still a fantasy. Because we just went right back up to Park City, and right back into training. It feels like nothing changed at all, actually. But I did feel it did start to hit me how big the Olympics is when Central was talking about how many people watch the Olympics. And I was like, whoa, that's, this isn't Jeff Comite anymore. There's going to be 3.2 billion people.
Exactly. So you said going right back to training in Park City. What does this week look like for you after the double? Are you taking just a string of easy days, kind of getting your legs back underneath you? Or are you hitting it pretty hard considering the Olympics are only a few weeks out?
It's kind of like this week is kind of, we're just floating. We just kind of flushing the legs, but on Tuesday, we're going to have a hard session, no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what, probably like 2-ish pretty tough weeks here is my guess. And then maybe another little bit of a taper after that. I guess when do you head out to the Olympics themselves?
I leave we all leave. Everyone that's running the 10 and the 5. Central's not leaving for a couple days later, but we leave on the 25th for Tokyo. And it's really, if you're in one event, you only get to be there for like 2 days before the event and then 2 days after, or something similar to that. We're in both, so we get to stay longer. Grant and I, but we leave for actually Hawaii on the 18th. So we're going to spend a week in Hawaii first, and then go from Hawaii to Tokyo. It's just like a kind of like a middle ground between here. So we don't have a long flight. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I was curious so the Olympic trials is obviously it's not easy to make the Olympic team. So from a training perspective, are you kind of doing like a full taper and peaking for the Olympic trials because you know that you have to bring the A game that day in order to actually make the Olympic team? And then now you're kind of doing like an abbreviated recovery / then like a couple weeks hard and then getting into the Olympics. How does Jerry phase that training for you? Or was the expectation all along that you were going to make the Olympic team in one of them? So it was kind of like eyes on the medals, Olympics down the road.
No, I don't think anybody, Jerry does definitely peak us for the Olympics, but I don't think Jerry was like, you're going to make the team. Everyone's going to make it. It's incredibly hard to do that. So we did kind of taper a little bit. Definitely in between the 10 and the 5. I was just going for 35-minute runs when I wasn't racing. So I've already kind of been tapering accidentally with extremely hard efforts in between that. So I don't know how that's going to feel because I'm not really used to that, but I feel fine right now. And I imagine my fitness will just carry over for the next month.
Absolutely. And maybe even, at least, I don't know, in my experience, sometimes running, I found when you're training so hard for such a period of time, sometimes you do need more of a taper than just a week or two. And sometimes you can have some of your best performances after some downtime. So, maybe you do have an extra added peak at the Olympics that you didn't have at the Olympic trials. Who knows? It's always hard to guess what the body's going to feel. You never really know for sure.
That's just it, man. It's like, if I feel good or feel bad, I don't know. It doesn't really matter anymore. As long as I put myself in the race and give myself a shot, I think I'll do fine. I'll do well.
Exactly. So you mentioned Olympic team, very hard to make. Going into the trials, where would you say that your confidence level was at? Between you and Grant and Lopez, I think a lot of people, expected at least one of you, maybe a couple of you to make, either team 10K or 5K. So where would you say your confidence level was at going in based on the buildup this season?
It was a strange place to be because it was the best few years of training I've ever had. So I was in the best shape I've ever been. I still am. And So my confidence was high in the sense where I've had better preparation than ever before, but also I was incredibly nervous because I was just so prepared and ready to do it. It's like, I should make this team. Like there's no way that I don't make this team if I just put myself in the race and I just like keep my head in the race because I'm in shape to do it. So I wouldn't say it was like kind of it was pressure, there was a lot of pressure in this race, but I was more, I was in a different position than I've ever been in the sense where I was like, I'm not just going to have to hang on. Like I'm going to be able to have tactics. I'm going to be able to think about what I'm doing in the race rather than just grinding the whole time.
Yeah. How was it hard? I'm assuming that it was difficult, especially with the pandemic. You're not racing a ton, but you ran the really fast 5K, the Bowerman time trial, essentially in Oregon, 12:58, and looked really good doing that. I guess from that, moving though from that to like a championship style of racing where you have to close hard, kind of a little bit different tools that you need to have in the toolbox there. Between that fast 5K time trial and the Olympic trials, there weren't a ton of races in general. So, I guess from a spectator standpoint, it really was up in the air on like, I didn't know going in. Honestly, I would have never said like, I'm 100% confident that Woody's going to make it just because I would guess I wouldn't have said that really about anybody because nobody was racing enough to know one way or the other. So, after that 12:58, I guess, talk a little bit about maybe your mindset, how that race shifted it. And then between that race and the Olympic trials, maybe how training shifted or, where you focused on sharpening ahead of the trials, knowing maybe what the tactics were going to be or the strategy was going to be kind of in that specific race.
Right. Okay. So let's start with the 12:58. And I personally had felt in 2019, I was going into the well every single workout. Like I was throwing up after every workout. I was laying down. I was racing like every workout. I was coming off like I had hernia surgery in September earlier that year. So I didn't have a big fall base at all. So and Mo and Lopez, this is 2019, were on another level. So I was getting broken by them in every single workout. I get 30 USAs that year. And in 12:58, I finally kind of have, a great race.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, after 2019, I was just like, I just ran 12:58 on kind of fake fitness. Like, I didn't have a fall training. I hadn't had years of training before that. All I had was one great season of extremely hard workouts, and I ran 12:58. So all I have to do is kind of stay within myself and keep going, and just get a little bit better each workout and just stay with Mo and Lopez. And eventually they're not going to drop me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was what happened in 2020 when COVID hit. We went up to camp together, the whole team. And my goal was, I'm not going to try and like set the world on fire this year. Like there's too much going on. I just want to stay healthy and prepare for whenever the Olympics comes. So I stayed really patient. I think a couple guys actually on our own team did not stay patient. They
okay. Yep.
The Olympics didn't happen. So we're going to make the Olympics practice. And I kind of took my days. Like if I didn't feel like if I had something in my foot going on or something, I would be like, I'm not going to do this workout.
Okay.
I wouldn't suggest that for everybody, but like, that's kind of how I went about 2020 because I knew I haven't really had that shot yet. Like these guys had, they were ready to, really risk it all. Come this year, I stayed healthy all through 2020. I felt like I'd been through everything. I felt like there was nothing that, since I have this base and I still have my speed, there was a lot of confidence. Like what can these guys really do to me now? I'm really ready to make this team. Like I should have made teams years ago.
Yeah.
and now I finally have a chance to be in shape and it's the right time. Like everything's working, it's coming together at the right time. And I was ready for the trials.
That's excellent to hear. It is so crazy spectating track because and we've talked about this on a couple other podcasts and with other guests as well, is you never know going into the trials. You always have some people that kind of come out of nowhere that like all year, maybe they're not racing well, or they're just up and comers, collegiates, and they crush it at the trials. And you have some people who are crushing it in January, February, March, and then maybe kind of peter off and don't do well at the trials. And then you have some people who just crush it all year. So it's kind of all over the board. And so the patience thing is definitely, it makes like going into the trials, it's like people might not be talking about you as much, but you got to know yourself and know what you're going to perform best, what strategy you're going to perform best with. So that's interesting to hear. And I know you've had, like most runners, several injuries in the past as well. And so how long have you been running, I guess, kind of, injury free at this point, consistent training?
All the way from September of 2018 until now, I haven't really had a major injury at all. I've had maybe taken like 5 days off for something.
Okay.
But other than that, I was just getting up and going for a run every day. That hadn't happened since I was like 19, man. Like ever since I was 21, like there was always like with 1 year up year and then next year I'd get hurt. And for the last 3 years, I just haven't been getting hurt. And that's really the difference. It's
do you think that that's mostly, I guess, what would you mostly attribute that to? Do you think it's like the patience, that piece of it? I mean, is it strength training? Is it is it mostly just the kind of the mental aspect of understanding where your limits are and knowing when to back off? Do you think that's the biggest part?
I think, in 2018, 2019, I had to, my hand was forced. My hand was forced in that my contract was coming up. My dad had just been diagnosed with cancer. I'm sorry to bring this up on the video.
No, I was actually going to bring this up at some point later on. And yeah, that was just like heartbreaking to hear. So yeah, really sorry to hear that.
It's okay. But it's years ago now. But so I felt like this was a year that I really wanted to do something. And I wasn't really in shape to do it. So my hand was forced, where I would say in 2019, I wasn't patient and I was working out beyond my fitness. But I was 26, and sometimes you just don't get hurt when you're at the peak fitness of your whole career, And so when I got that year of base of working out outside myself, I was able to no longer have to work outside myself and still do more mileage. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of it. I wouldn't say there was, I think there's a lot of luck that's involved. Where in 2019, I think it's possible that I got injured and that was the end of my career. But I didn't get injured. There were a couple of times that my hamstring kind of hurts. I just took a couple of days and it got better. A couple of times my foot kind of hurt and I just kind of ran through it, and I got lucky. It didn't break,
Yep.
I think there's a big part of running outside yourself when your hands forced like that comes down to a little bit of luck. And then the consistency of 2020 and 2021 really was what made the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned a contract being up for renewal. Running is, it's a passion. It's also your profession. It's your job as well. One thing we like to talk to our guests about a little bit is, as much as they're willing to share on the career side of things, like the business side of things, how much does that, I don't know, stress you out? How much do you think about that? From my perspective, not being a pro runner, not being on the inside there, just knowing that the way that a professional runner is compensated is very performance-based, success-based. And so is that stressful? I'm sure it is to some extent, but how would you describe that kind of that mentality or that mindset around that, and how much does that affect you on over the course of your career, and how much do you think about that?
The business side of running.
Yeah, the business side of running, knowing that if you if you don't compete for a couple years, if you're injured, you might get dropped, or, the goal is to get medals at the Olympics, qualify for the Olympic team. And knowing that is the goal, that is obviously a high bar. There's only 3 people in the 10K and 3 people in the 5K that medal, and only 3 people in the US that qualify. So it's not like, probability wise, you might even be better off playing the lottery in some cases. So, it's got to be stressful to some extent. And not saying that we should be bashing on any sponsors at all, but I'm just curious how much that does affect your mentality, if it does, on a day-to-day basis or, yearly basis, if that's something you think about.
Definitely. I think I perform well when I think the stakes are higher. Okay. Some people perform best when they're like within themselves and like comfortable. Mm-hmm. I think I perform best not when I'm comfortable, but when I feel like this is the moment. Like I need to really put all my energy into this. So I thrive in a situation where it's like only 3 people make it. Because that's when I feel like, okay, I have to make it right now. When They're just like, okay, 10 people advance, I have a harder time going into the well. So how do I feel about it? I think it benefits me in some ways when I'm healthy, but it's, I don't know a way around it. I wish more people could do the sport, right? Like mm-hmm. a lot of people, are journeyman runners, I would say, where they kind of go from place to place or team to team, and they never quite make the grade and they never make a team. But the bottom line is people are only watching the sport at Worlds. They're only watching it in the Olympics. So how are we going to get as many people as we can into those spots?
Right.
That's where money is being made. So I don't think that any sponsorship controls that. They don't control that only 3 people get to go. Well, I mean, like they do to a certain extent, but that's just the way it's always been. I don't blame any sponsor for wanting to get their representation the most in those events. And if you're good at that, then that's going to help you. It's going to help you stay in the game.
For sure.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess going back to the Olympic trials, did you think that you were more likely to make it in the 10K or the 5K?
Okay. So into the trials, I thought I was probably gonna have a better chance competing in the 10.
Okay.
Just because I have a big engine. I've got a good kick. I don't need an insane kick to win the 10K necessarily. But in the 5K, I think on an international level, I think I probably have a better chance just because it's a little more random.
Yeah, right.
It's a little more contingent on how people feel that day. It's just a harder event to really predict. I don't think the 10K is really as predictable as people are saying it's going to be. I've said this on other podcasts. I think the heat and the general unsureness of everybody, of how everybody's running so fast, is it the shoes? Are people doping? I mean, like no one knows, can explain the faster times, right? So nobody's sure of anything. And I think that unsureness is going to cause a little more randomness in the event. Now, I don't know the future, but I have to believe that. I think. Yeah.
I was just going to, I completely agree. It's one of the common talk tracks in track and field that honestly annoys the hell out of me, of like people trying to justify times and think that they know, oh, it's the shoes. Oh, it's the whatever. It's the COVID year. So people are just training. I mean, I think that's just like old news at this point. I'm kind of sick of hearing it either way. It's like people are freaking fast. They're tough. Maybe they're just smarter at training over the years, and like you've built I don't know. I think it's such a disservice to the athletes to continue to talk about or to debate like those specific things and not just say, hey, these guys are freaking beasts. If you're the best in the US, who cares? Like, who cares what you can attribute it to? You're the best. So, I'm curious after the 10K then. So you won the 10K. Did that relieve a bunch of pressure, like going into the 5K, at least from me watching, then this is literally just like the couple clips where they show you at the start of the 5K on NBC, you know, right before the gun goes off. You look like you're just chilling. Like when the gun goes off, it honestly looked like you kind of like, you know, you didn't like blast off the line. You're kind of like, you know, I don't know. You got some swag. You're kind of like taking your time, whatever. Do you think that going into the 5K, I guess talk about that a little bit. So you've won the 10K, you're going into the 5K. Are you now in your mind, are you still like, hey, I want to make this team in the 5K, like kind of putting some pressure there to make the team? Or at that point, were you more so relaxed and saying, hey, I already made a team, this is just gravy, like whatever happens, happens? What was your mind looking like going into that?
I definitely, like after the 10, I was elated for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And that was just an emotional journey in itself. And then when I really started to think about the 5K and I started to realize, oh my God, I'm actually going to the Olympics. I thought, what's my best chance in the Olympics? Like I actually have to start thinking about this now.
Right.
And I thought I should make this 5K team. I can medal in the 5K if it like under a certain situation. Like I need to make this team. I'm clearly in shape to do it. Grant's right there with me. Like we can both make this team.
Yeah.
So yep. I started thinking, I honestly was not thinking about the 5K at all before the 10.
Okay. Yep.
I was just thinking about the 10. And then when I made the team, I realized, wow, we're in insane shape. We need to like, you only get like one opportunity to do this. And we have to do it. Like we have to. And I really wanted to race Chelimo and beat him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I didn't beat him. Just so you know,
you didn't beat him. You know, that was his focus event. So, you know, fair enough. The Olympics are, I guess, what really matters. You know, you got the top 3 in the 5K. That's what's really important. So, I mean, now that you brought up Chelimo, maybe talk about that a little bit. I mean, is there any sort of beef there? Or it seems like you guys are just out there competing. Paul himself, you know, he's a competitor, but seems like he's, you know, a genuine dude after the race. Obviously he's out for blood during the race, but yeah, maybe talk about that a little bit. What do you think of the Chelimo fly out to lane 4 or 5 at the end of the race?
Well, I mean, it's tough to say, man, because you have to ask yourself, like, if you were in that situation, would you do the same thing? And the answer is probably yes. Mm-hmm. Would you be DQ'd if this were the Olympics? Yes, he would have been DQ'd. Like, yeah. I think. But as his best, he actually played it right, and he got very lucky in some sense where he made this tactical move, a risky tactical move. Mm-hmm. And Grant happened to get second, I happened to get third. Now, like if in this different situation where Cooper Tier is not in lane 1, doesn't have a good argument, and I get fourth, then I'm probably going to DQ him to move up. But in this situation, he got very lucky in the sense where he both won the race and the two best runners advanced. Because ultimately you want the best team in Tokyo, right?
Exactly.
So if I personally would say I'm a better runner than Paul Chelimo. So
yeah, I love that.
But like, I mean, he's a silver medalist, but I think that was time ago. But you know, if it's a different situation, maybe he's DQ'd. As it worked out, he played it perfectly. And I think I probably would have done the same thing. Yeah.
How are your legs feeling in that 5K? Do you think that the 10K, were you still feeling that a little bit going into that race, or were you feeling, you know, fresh enough that you would say that you were 100% going in?
I did not feel good. No, I felt pretty bad. and then I felt very bad actually. And then in the prelim, we had a really tough prelim heat. It was not you did. Race. It was not an easy race to advance. So we already had both a 155 last 800 in that prelim. It was not a cakewalk where I would honestly, say the second heat had a huge advantage, but it didn't really matter because the 3 best runners ended up advancing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Cooper's good, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always tough to get fourth in whatever race. Cooper's been on the Beer Mile podcast before, and tough to see him get fourth. It's tough to see anyone get fourth. Craig Ingles in the 1500 as well. Tough to see him get fourth. Unfortunately, three spots. Someone's going to get fourth. But yeah, no, I'm really excited for the team that we have going in. And I mean, you kind of already answered this. I was actually curious, were you going to for sure compete in both? You and Grant both compete in both the 10K and the 5K. And it sounds like that's a for sure at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it would make, there are people that blow up in the 10 and they come back in the 5 and they do well.
Exactly.
You can't predict an event. So if you get more opportunities, you got to take them.
Oh, absolutely. It's a probability game. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And you can say you're tired, right? But I've had races I didn't run well when I'm tired. That race I ran 12:58. I felt awful. That's the worst I've ever
I remember you saying that.
PR. So it's like, well, you're going to be tired. And it's, I have people DM me saying, let Cooper run. And I'm like, don't you want the best team in the United States? Like don't you want the best runners there? And I've even honestly, as much as I don't want to say it, I would want Chelimo on the team. Like Chelimo, Grant, and I think we're the best runners, at least at that moment. And so when people ask us to drop out of the race, I'm like, you want the best runners for the USA, not just people you like, right? Exactly. That's how I feel. It doesn't. No, that's just me.
I agree, and that's exactly what I say. Like the fourth place, it's heartbreaking, obviously, and like I would love to see Cooper run in the Olympics, but Cooper's also super young. He's you and Paul and Grant are better medal contenders than he is at this point in his running career. He, with 4 more years or I guess 3 more years in this case of him building base and everything, he'll be a much better medal contender at that point. But absolutely, I think the right people went in this case, and that actually leads me into one thing I wanted to ask about in the 10K was Lopez. Not dropping out in the middle of the race. I guess how's he doing in general? What did he pull up with? And it was definitely tough to see him not be a part of the team as well, because obviously with his experience and consistency over these years, he's another great medal contender as well, coming from Bowerman Track Club.
Right. And Lopez, man, if the Olympics were held last year, Lopez is.
I know he was on an absolute tear last year. Yeah.
So and he's working out with Mo, and they're working out outside their mind. Just the two of them and Grant. So it's a timing thing. It sucks. Like we've all been in that situation where the timing wasn't right and we were fit at the wrong time and it just didn't come together at the right time. Lopez has been, he's been blessed with a crazy long career. So I don't think Lopez is bitter or mad. I mean, I'm sure he's disappointed that he didn't make an Olympic team. But the crazy thing about the guy is I have no doubt that he'll be back like in next year. He's like 36.
Yeah.
He's still going to make teams. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he makes Paris. Like I'm not kidding. He'll be 40. And
yeah,
he just recovers. It's crazy. Lopez is a freak. He's a freak talent.
Absolutely. And we were seeing that more and more where athletes are older and still crushing it. I mean, Legat was a great example of that. Sarah Hall. I mean, you can count endless people that are still crushing it in their late 30s, even early 40s, Meb too. So absolutely still potential for him to continue to keep that streak going.
Yeah. And I mean, Lopez is one of the best things about having Lopez on the team is he will guarantee to hit a split or maybe run it faster.
Yeah.
So this guy's still ready. He's still got it. He's not just being on.
Yep. So now going into the Olympics, you have other Bauerman folks in the Olympics as well, not from the US. I was curious what the dynamic is there going into like a 10K or 5K race. You got Mark Scott, you've got Mo Ahmed. Like is there any sort of Bowerman Track Club team strategy that goes into that? Or for the most part, is it very like an individualized strategy for the most part, trying to, each person's obviously there to get their own medal. I was curious kind of how that dynamic works between, Bowerman Track Club versus Team USA versus other nationalities. Like how does that all play into it?
Yeah. So you're wondering, like, do we have race strategies?
Yeah. Like, are you sitting down with those guys or talking about the race with those guys? And, or is Jerry saying, this is how, like, collectively, you, Grant, Mark, Mo, how you guys could work together in the race to, maximize the Bauerman team medals. How much does that race strategy kind of work in a cohesive Bauerman team, especially in the Olympic setting, where then there's you guys are also enemies at the same time?
Honestly, it's a funny story. A couple of days before the 10K, like before we left Park City, well, maybe actually it was a little before that. It was probably more like a week. I went to Grant. I was like, if it's a slow race, I think we should just take it in 2 miles out or something.
Yeah.
We were just talking. I think, like, we can just take it 2 miles out. We're in the best shape and we could trade off. And Grant immediately was like, I'm not going to commit to that at all. Like,
okay. Yep.
So I would say that and then I never asked for any tactical advice or any help again. I think when it comes to making a team or it comes to trying to medal, we all have to run our own race.
Right.
Jerry doesn't sit us down and say, you're going to run like this. We don't say we're going to sit down and we're going to run like this. We definitely work together in the moment. And one thing that helps is we know each other very well. And we know how the other person runs better than anyone else. If Grant looks bad, I know. But for the most part now, we're pretty much out there to run our own race. Like, yeah, there's just too much. There's just like too much to really think about than to think about what your teammates are doing every single lap,
Yeah, that's fair. It's very unpredictable in general, and you're just in the flow state in the race, and you can't really use as much mental capacity to think about that. So, would you say that, I guess, 10K and the 5K, from a race strategy standpoint, obviously don't spill all the secrets on how you're planning to race here, but do you foresee like a preference in, like, you would do better if it were a faster race, if it were a tactical race, how do you foresee yourself being the greatest probability of getting a medal? Do you have a race strategy or a race layout that you think it would be best for you?
Yeah, obviously I put some thought into it. I think if it's a 26:11 race, if we're going to set a world record, I'm just going to be running as hard as I can the whole time. And there will be very little strategy. It will just be, how fast can I run and who can I get behind at who's within my range. But if it's not that, and I'm not convinced that it will be, if it's closer to even a 26 high, or who knows what kind of fitness I'm in. If it's a little more within my range, I think I need to be careful about who I lock into per se. Like, I need to pick the right person who I think will be able to stay in this race. Because I don't do well front running. I don't do well in the back. I run my best when I'm just kind of like towards the front, 5 or 6, 2 or 3 or 4. And hopefully we just run a race where I'm in a position to have a kick. And if I'm there with a kick, I can race with anyone. I really do think that. Right.
How much does looking at your competitors' previous races, watching tape, so to speak, how much does that play into what you do and your job and how you like prep for a race? Is that a big piece of it? Not even a factor at all? How do you use that as a tool?
I would say, I'm watching their races, but nobody looks the same every time. There are people, there's certainly patterns, but when you're running so fast, when it gets to the point where now you're running 26:30, for me, I'm not good enough to have tactics in a 26:30 race.
Right.
I'm honestly just running as hard as I can the whole time. But I think there's something to be said about knowing who's capable of doing what. I would say I wouldn't put a lot of faith into it. Like, it's the 10K, 5K, there's probably less tactics. Mo would disagree. We've had this discussion. But versus, like, let's say the 1500, where Centrowitz is always on his game and wins any type of race. Unfortunately, you just don't have that ability if you're just grinding all the time. I think a lot of being able to be a tactician in this sport is just being talented enough to not have to just think about how you feel and just like be able to run what you want to run. That
yeah.
So hopefully I get in a race where I actually have the ability to think about what I'm doing.
Fair enough.
When I'm not in shape, I'm not able to, or it's just harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally get that. And I just kind of randomly thought of this again, going back to you talking about the unknowns of the Olympics, like the heat, the tactics, all these different pieces that play into it. So I just wanted to throw in there that, you wearing the sleeves, you're even more adapted to the heat training, getting used to that going into the race. So are those going to make a comeback at the Olympics as well?
So.
They're pretty...
I'm leaning towards the sleeves at the moment. I can't pump because, people will hold me to it. If they don't see me in the sleeves, they'll be like, what the hell, man? You're a liar. You lie about everything. So I can't promise, but I'm leaning towards it. I like the way the sleeves feel. I like the way they feel, and just getting a little wet before a race. They're really not that hot.
Right. Right.
They feel kind of good actually. Like when the gust of wind comes, So I like the way they feel. Probably gonna rip them out.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so let's go to the Olympics now. You win a medal in either race or both races, either one. And let's say even you win a gold medal. What does the celebration for that look like for you after the Olympics? I mean, maybe not in between races, maybe not if you win the medal in the first race, in between races, obviously you're not going to do anything too crazy, but what does that post-Olympics medal winning celebration look like for you?
You're a jubilation, man. I honestly, those are my favorite celebrations where if you cross the line, you don't even know what to do with yourself.
Right.
So I think for the next 2 weeks, I would just not know what to do with myself. Like I would just, I'd be a child out there. I would just be a happy child, just a dog, a happy man. And so honestly, when people plan out their celebrations, like you can tell when they cross it. I'm going to call out Clayton Murphy. Like he crosses the line and he like crosses his arms and like sticks his tongue out. Like,
yep.
You clearly thought about that in the mirror, man. Like that's not me. I honestly just want to see how happy you are. That's all I want. I don't really care how tough you are. Like I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. And thinking about Centro at the 2016 games, I would think that he is embodied exactly what you just said. Like he crossed the line and he's just like eyes wide open in shock. Like he has no idea what just happened. It's like he led wire to wire and just got a medal. And he's like, what the hell just happened? Where am I at? Am I dreaming? I don't know what's going on. So yeah, I agree. The pure genuine response is great.
I mean, yeah, when you watch a sport, like which do you want to see? Like, it reminds me of, I don't know, a few years ago, Stefan Diggs after that miracle play. Do you watch football?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he had that miracle play with the Vikings, and afterwards he like crossed his hand and just like stood there. I'm like, I want to see the person running up and down the field, like just waving their arms. Like that's the person that is the most invested in the sport. That's how I feel.
Right. So at the Olympic trials then, after winning, I guess either in between races and or after the 5K, what did the celebration look like for that? Did you give yourself a chance to enjoy and kind of soak in the moment a little bit? Did you, take some celebration days? You said you just took some easy running in between races and after the 5K. I mean, what was there a celebration, friends, family, going out, having some beers? Like what did that look like celebrating your Olympic teams?
Dude, I was so happy. I didn't need a beer. I was just like
pure adrenaline.
Buzzed.
Yeah.
I was just buzzed, like I just didn't care. And I didn't sleep that night. I slept maybe an hour. Grant was the same way. And I went and had dinner with my friends from UP. I talked to my mom and dad and they were just so proud, obviously. Mm-hmm. So there's no like, okay, let's go crush, because I just didn't need it.
Right.
I think after Tokyo, I probably will, because I just haven't had a drink in so long. And I really do like to drink. I just haven't done it. I haven't really done it for years. So after Tokyo, I probably will forget where I am.
And honestly, that's what makes the double so much more impressive to me too. I mean, Carissa as well. And, on the women's side is you come off the 10K, which is such a grueling race, and you are like in that crazy, just hyper, adrenaline state for a couple days. And then to not have that fatigue you so much that you are able to come back, bounce back, and still have the racing chops in order to make the other team as well. I mean, that's certainly, again, going back to like medal contention and all of that. I mean, that certainly speaks to just the overall fitness, your overall ability to be race savvy, race really well. I mean, that's super impressive, because I can only imagine making a first Olympic team. Oh, I can't really imagine it, honestly, because that's never been a realistic thought in my mind. But making your first Olympic team, it's like, how do you come down from that in order to be calm and collected enough to go into the next thing to, again, put forth a peak performance in order to like make that next team too. It's absolutely wild to me to think about.
I think it just has to come down to realizing you have to take the opportunity. Like if it was just the prickly pear again or something like that,
right?
I wouldn't perform at all. But because I just knew I'm not getting another chance at this, it wasn't that hard to refocus. It really wasn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, looking beyond, I don't know how much I'm sure you've thought about it a little bit, but obviously the Olympics is the focus right now. Like looking beyond the Olympics, where do you see from a career standpoint? Are you thinking about like 2024 games, several more world championships? How do you see just like your career length as well as maybe events as well? Do you see yourself as still a track guy for the next Olympic cycle and then marathon, or have you even thought about the roads and the marathon as part of the journey? What's your mindset on that?
I have started thinking about it more. I always was just so focused on this year and getting it done. But now it's like, well, if I stay healthy, and I have a weird stride and I'm always almost injured. Like as my team, I always say something's wrong. And they're like, okay, yeah, Woody, we don't believe you anymore. Something's wrong. If I can stay on the track, and I don't think I can, I'm going to try and make it through Paris.
Okay.
But ultimately, I think I would really enjoy being a marathoner. I like grinding. I like being by myself. I like, long runs. And I also don't really, this is kind of strange, but I don't really like I get up. It's really hard for me to get up for races. I put a lot of energy into each race. And so you'll see me sometimes have definitely underperform when I don't have that same drive to get the best out of myself. And I think it's hard for me to get so nervous and to get so amped up for races. And I think I would do well if I just had to do that like once every 3 months.
Yeah, that makes sense. So something like a marathon would be just you're racing a few times a year, maybe a half going into a marathon, and then the marathon, maybe 2 marathons a year. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah. So then, beyond Paris, then potentially even, a couple more Olympic chances then, whether it's, on the track or on the roads then, or you're still no cap or no end to the career in sight at this point. Going to keep going for a while.
With these years of health, and showing that I still have room to improve, man. Like this is like I think I still have potential, and I don't see a reason to quit at the moment. Obviously, one major injury, it's over. But
right.
I definitely, a lot of doors have been opened with these 2 races.
Yeah, absolutely. And growing up in Colorado, have you, throughout your life, and I guess even your time not in Colorado, what about trail running? Is that something that you've enjoyed in the past, been interested in? I don't know. I mean, I guess there's the difference between, enjoying running on the trails versus competing on the trails, kind of completely different things. But, just curious, coming from Colorado, if that was something that you kind of grew up with, and if that's ever crossed your mind as like a very future thing as well.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
No, I don't really have any interest in doing trail running. I love to hike and I love to kind of be outside, but I kind of like I would rather do a marathon.
Okay.
I like the idea of having a benchmark versus trail running. There's not really a benchmark that I can really point to and be like, I want to do that, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Every race is so different. Weather's different. Yeah, there is no comparison race to race, you know, and really anything. So that makes sense. So, I mean, would you say that you're kind of like a numbers guy then? I don't know. No. Okay. I'm trying to gauge this a little bit. It's like, are you saying like, I need to be, you know, I ran this time today. I want to run this time next year. Are you that kind of guy or?
I'm a very, very hard person to understand because I'm very fastidious about some things and incredibly disorganized about others. So when it comes to like, you know, what time I want to hit in a race, I'll actually really want to hit the splits. But when it comes to how many miles I want to hit in the week, I will just kind of listen to my body. So it's like, I'm not consistent in anything that I focus on, but I do hyper focus on some things.
Interesting. Yeah. Maybe some benefit, especially on the injury side, to not being someone who's like, I got to hit exactly 100 miles this week, or, you know, that exact number. That's good. I'm starting to, I mean, I don't understand you at all, but I'm starting to get there, you know, I'm starting to work on it.
Yeah. I don't think you're ever going to get there. I haven't quite gotten there, so don't worry about it.
Okay. Kind of a like total derail or change of topic. But one thing I wanted to talk about too was on the, I guess, nutrition side of thing, diet side of thing. I know you have talked about in the past being like being vegan growing up and being vegan for a while, and then maybe switching diets. Where's your diet at currently under, you know, training at a high level? Are you, I think you maybe have said that you're like pescatarian at this point. I'm just kind of curious where that's at and your philosophy on nutrition overall.
Well, here's the thing. I totally think being vegan is the best diet for general being, for the world, for probably a normal person. But in my case, I'm just not good enough at, this goes back to detail oriented, about planning every one of my meals and, you know, doing everything I can to get everything I need. I just am not, I'm not good enough at doing that. And so I end up just getting injured. So at the moment I have no dietary restrictions.
Okay.
I don't think I was injured because of my diet, but rather because of, lack of commitment to doing what was necessary to stay healthy.
Okay.
So yeah, I have no dietary restrictions at the moment.
Got it. So do you think you will be then, you know, post running career, you'll be a vegan again at some point? Is that where you're going to land?
Yeah. My girlfriend's vegan. I support veganism. I think it's the right thing to do, but I'm not vegan. So.
Got it. Yeah. I wanted to ask about that because I switched from, I've kind of gone through a few different, I guess, phases, but in 2019 I switched and I was completely vegan for a while, and then I was vegetarian for a while. And I'd say right now I'm kind of on the pescatarian level, but very minimal, like dairy and that sort of thing. And looking back at, you know, how I felt running and just general, just how I felt on a day-to-day basis, you know, I think diet did play a bigger part into my just general wellness and how I felt, you know, previously versus now. And especially because I would classify myself as like a massive meat eater before I switched as well. Growing up with family who has farms, you know, raise livestock. I was definitely a meat for every meal kind of person. And then going from that to nothing, basically meat, maybe salmon once a week. I've definitely felt a difference in just my like sustained energy overall and kind of everything else. I don't know. I'm no nutritionist and I don't have a nutritionist working with me. So I'm sure I have some deficiencies here and there that, you know, I would need to work on if I was trying to be like a top-notch athlete. And so that's a completely different realm of just, you know, general well-being. But, I'm always curious to kind of ask about that because there's absolutely the performance side of diet. And then there's just your general lifestyle diet. And so I've kind of experimented on myself too. And so I'm always curious to learn what others have tried and how they've felt about, you know, trying different things throughout their life. And
to your point of, maybe you have some deficiencies. I don't think veganism would lead you to have some deficiencies. I just think when I was traveling or if I just was like in a hurry, I just wouldn't be able to get something to eat because I haven't prepared enough. So that's ultimately what I think led to my injuries is I would have to go so many hours without eating sometimes because I just wouldn't be in a position that I let myself get in that position, you know?
Right. Switching gears again, curious. So you're a podcaster yourself, Price of a Mile podcast. And part of the reason I didn't dive into, for any listeners out there, part of the reason I didn't dive into all of your past and your running career kind of, you know, throughout your college and all that is you've touched on a lot of that. I've listened to a lot of your podcast episodes. You touch on a lot of that there. So I don't need to, you know, rehash everything that's already been said, but curious if that's going to post Olympics make a comeback at all. If that's something, you know, kind of your overall thoughts on the podcast, that's something you enjoy doing. Is that going to make a comeback?
Well, I really like producing the episodes, but I never like to make somebody do something they don't want to do. And I've asked a couple, I want to get one of the Bauerman women on there. Mm-hmm. If I ever get close enough, I usually only do a podcast with somebody after I'm really close with them so that it seems fair to them. And that I know that what I'm asking is where I want to go. I guess.
Right.
I have some leading questions in my podcast, but I really want to do Marielle because we've been friends for a while, but she hasn't been interested in doing it.
Okay.
I could see maybe doing Elise Cranny in the future, just because I'm spending more time with Elise and Carissa and Courtney here at Altitude. So like I said, I like to have just an idea of who the person is before I do it. I did Alexi Pappas once and we weren't super close and that turned out all right. So I could see myself maybe expanding, but at the moment, no. The answer is no. I'm not producing it.
Well, I mean, obviously I know you super well and this is turning out perfectly. So it's you know,
right.
Have you, I know Grant's delved into the podcast game here these last few months as well. And it's been interesting to listen to those too, kind of hearing his inside perspective on how training's going week to week. And I don't know. I think the people would love to hear from you. So if there's any possibility of you making a comeback, you know, I'm sure someone would appreciate it. But yeah, I absolutely understand. It's certainly tough to, I spend a lot of time preparing for podcasts in general. You want to know enough about the person that you're going to have, you're not going to ask them the same questions they've answered before, which requires research. And then you also want to know enough about them. You want to make, my goal at least is to make people look as good as possible and try to, I mean, that's the goal. It doesn't always happen, but I mean, I'm trying to, you know, and that's part of like, you know, if anyone says anything that they don't want it to come on the air, like I'm not trying to force people to do it, but you know, hopefully helping the athletes' stories come out a little bit and get a little bit more support and backing from the fans. That's kind of the goal of doing it. But yeah, it's I don't know. As a fellow podcaster, I appreciate the difficulty, the time that goes into it. And so would love to hear more stories, you know, if and when you're ready to dive back into the podcast game.
Thank you. I do like to hear that. Genuinely. Grant's podcast is awesome, by the way. I've listened to Half Step 3 or 4 times, and each podcast he's always got some good insight. So I'll plug that one too.
Agreed. Yeah, let's plug it. Awesome. So to close out here, want to have a little bit of fun. We've done this with a few other people, kind of talking about, we did this most recently with Jake Riley, just talking about his looking back at his Stanford days and the team camaraderie, team aspect of it. So want to get your perspective on, you know, who's most likely to on the Bauerman team for a couple of these different scenarios here and have a little fun. So first one here is, who on the Bauerman team is most likely to take an easy run way too hard?
It changes every single day, man.
Really? Who's feeling good? And
no, it's just like, there definitely are some suspects.
Okay.
No where there's Mark, me, Chris Derrick, and Mohamed. Okay, so when I joined the team, Mo always was in the back and never wanted to run hard. In 2019, Mo went insane and decided I'm going to run hard every day. So ever since then, Mo's a oppressor. You know, I should say everybody's oppressor except for I should say who is an oppressor. Which is Grant Fisher, runs a controlled run. Obviously, that matches his personality. Kieran Tuntavate.
Yep.
And I'm only naming the men, by the way. I'm trying to think of anyone else I trust. I trust no one else. Trust no one else to run a controlled pace.
And that's funny because Grant on his podcast on the Half Step Pod had mentioned how basically he was just getting his ass kicked at altitude, because he is still a young gun, he's getting his butt kicked at altitude. So it makes sense that he wouldn't be pressing the pace when, he's coming into working out with some of the best dudes in the world. And it's not easy. So you can't really press the pace on guys that are, top notch in the world as an up and comer, which now I guess I wouldn't really call him an up and comer anymore. He is one of those top notch guys, but
the guy has a chance of medaling at the Olympics.
I know I
don't know what I possibly could be.
I know to go from him, his own self stories of just getting dropped on runs, can't keep up at altitude, to now it's like he's one of the best in the world. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Next one here, then, most likely to skip making dinner and just order takeout or order food.
Centro. Definitely Centro. I wouldn't even say takeout. I would say just go like Chick-fil-A. Most likely to get Chick-fil-A or something easier than takeout.
That's hilarious.
I mean, he's definitely eating well now, I should say. Since living with us, since joining Bauerman, I would say his diet has increased tenfold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He used to be the guy that would always share on his Insta story or whatever, just like him at the gas station picking up gummy worms or, all these random just crap foods. So
he doesn't actually eat that sometimes, by the way.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm sure that some of that is for just cause it's hilarious, but
it's funny. Yeah. He's just being funny.
How about most likely to bail last minute on plans?
All of us are very flaky because we're so tired.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust a single person to actually come through on event after run. I think we've made more plans on runs than anywhere else in our lives and not done them. So all of us are flaky in that sense. And I think one of the best things about knowing other runners is they understand the flakiness of, I actually really need a nap right now. And anyone else in the world that sounds like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, need a nap?
Just have some coffee. Let's go.
I can't stay awake. I can't stay awake. I can't go get a drink. I'm too tired.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you get that.
I do. I've certainly never trained at the level that you're training at, but training at a semi-elite level and then having to work, 8 to 10 hour days. I can totally understand flaking out on plans on basically every weekday. I've been there. Absolutely.
I think, if we don't flake out on you, it's a testament to how much they really care. Because I've called off a lot of dates, but yeah.
Well, thank you for not calling off this date with me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. That's what I was leading you on.
Okay. How about this? Most likely to sleep through their alarm.
We don't set alarms. I'm going to be honest. As a pro runner, unless you got to work out at really early in the morning, I don't think any of us really set our alarm. Maybe Centro sometimes, but for the most part, we're like so in routine that we're not going to sleep through our alarms because we're just going to be waking up at normal time or like same time.
Yeah, letting your body decide. I like it. Okay, a little bit more fun here, mischievous maybe. Most likely to wake up in jail. And we'll say, off season after the Olympics, everyone won a gold medal, most likely to wake up in jail.
I'm definitely the one most likely to be canceled. I don't know if I'm most likely to wake up in jail. But wake up in jail. There's some wild cards in there. I would actually say, it's not Matt. It's not, you would think it's Matt Centrowitz because he's got like this kind of bad boy look, but Matt is actually incredibly by the book and very much by the rules and would not do anything to get in trouble. I think who's the person that would most likely do something dumb? Probably Grant.
The young gun. Okay.
Yeah, probably Grant. Because Grant's usually level-headed, but he's also got this pretty wild side to him that he just likes to have fun. So I could see him overstepping pretty easily, and he'll drink. So
yeah,
him and I are probably going to drink and do something dumb, and I'll say something and get canceled. That's how it would go down.
Well, man, I hope you guys get those gold medals. One of you in one event and the other in the other event, so that we can see what happens after the Olympics, see how crazy it gets.
Yeah. I just don't want a Ryan Lochte situation. I really don't. That's not what we need.
No,
we got enough shit at Bauerman.
Yeah, I gotta keep it under the wraps a little bit. Keep the nightlife separate from any sort of cameras or anything like that.
We don't have a nightlife.
I know, and that's what's so funny is like pro athletes are like the most dedicated. I mean, to get to that level, obviously, to be top in the world, I don't need to tell you this, but it's clear that you have to be on your A game all the time. You can't be being an idiot like ever, basically, except for in the off season. So whenever there is a story like that where a pro athlete was whatever, they were out partying, they were doing something, it's like they're compared to the average person who's out partying most weekends, it's not really a fair judgment, I guess. It's just that you guys are in a different spotlight because you are representing the country or in the eyes of millions of people at the Olympics. So it is just a different,
it is different. And I think it's, if you see an athlete, say, drinking or doing something dumb, who you see as someone as in peak performance, there's a little bit of he's not doing everything he can to be where he is. And I do everything I can to be where they are. So I think there are people that are mad about that, and kind of rightfully so, because when you get to the Olympics, they definitely hold you to a higher standard that I'm pretty nervous about. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I'll probably be fine.
We'll make sure you don't get canceled. Don't worry. We'll
I'm not
keep
so sure. I'm really not.
Okay, last one of the most likelies here. Who's most likely on the team to crush a beer mile? And then you can go both men and women if you want to.
I'd say Lopez would probably be the best. Lopez can just hammer a beer and do whatever is necessary to do it. Lopez would definitely be on the men's side. The women's side, I would actually probably give that to Shelby. She kind of got this wild side that can just kind of do it. So people that can just run and do what they need to do, that's what I give it to.
So where do you put your ranks? Have you ever done a beer mile? Do you see yourself as a big talent in the race of the beer mile?
I think I probably would bite off more than I could chew. I would say something ridiculous, like I'll take 2 shots or something, and then people are like, you said you were gonna take 2, and I'm like, I was just kidding. It's like, but then I would actually do it because I said I was gonna do it, right? And so no, I'd probably shoot myself in the foot somehow.
Okay. Well, I wanted to bring this up. We had obviously a ton of listeners wanted to ask about it. I wanted to leave it at the end of the podcast because this podcast is about you in general. But on the Shelby situation, if you don't want to talk about it, totally fine. Completely cut this out. But just curious, what if there's anything that you want to say and put out there as far as the whole situation around Shelby not being able to compete at the Olympic trials and for the next 4 years for that matter.
Well, I mean, it's really changed. I mean, these last 3 months has really changed my whole idea of how doping and testing work in this whole thing. Like before, I mean, if I hadn't joined Bauerman, I would say, man, look at NOP. Like those guys are probably doing something sketch. Like these guys, there's something wrong. And now I look at Shelby, who is 100% innocent, and obviously people have no idea what her case is at all, and have these claims about her. I don't even know what to. They're going to come after me for this because they're going to test me all the time now because I'm being vocal about it. But I don't know whose side. I mean, what is WADA trying to accomplish with busting a clean athlete? I think are they trying to scare dirty athletes? I don't understand what their goal is, because they have to know that Shelby's innocent. in my mind. And so by doubling down on their verdict, it is discouraging. It makes me immediately trust athletes more, me personally, because I know the public is going to immediately trust athletes less, including myself. I have no doubt. But as someone who is able to see that this person is innocent, and I believe that they believe she's innocent, it's a bad situation. And with the whole, I mean, all of USATF is not really getting good press right now. They're getting press. I wish that all this stuff that is coming out in USATF is not the focus. I wish it was just the Olympics was the focus. Maybe this, are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Maybe this clusterfuck that we're in will actually make people more sympathetic to Shelby's case. I think that they should be. I'm not sure how it's going to all play out.
Right.
Well, it's sad. The whole thing is sad.
I agree, because either way, I mean, it's lose-lose either way. It's horrible. And yeah, one of my massive, pet peeves is not a strong enough word, but one of my massive pet peeves is, you go on whatever, Let's Run or Instagram, anywhere, and everyone is spouting off their opinion one way or the other, whether she's whatever, innocent or guilty. And it's like, nobody is close enough to know anything about it to think that they are the smartest person in the room and make these statements like one way or the other. And that just makes me so mad. And we've gotten so many people that just being a not even a big pod, just a podcast, and people DM us and saying, "Oh, give us your opinion on Burrito Gate." And it's like, I'm not going to give an opinion. I'm not close enough to the case to have an opinion either way. I'm not going to just go out there and make claims and think that I'm smarter than everyone else and throw something out there. And Shelby's a fellow Iowan. I grew up in Iowa as well. I watched her. We were in high school at the same time, watched her throughout high school, and she's always been insanely talented, fun to watch all throughout. And so overall, it's just sad regardless of the outcome. It's just completely devastating either way, the fact that this came about.
Yeah, it's not good in any situation.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, but I do think eventually Shelby will be able to run again.
Okay.
At least I have to believe that. If she's not, then it's a tragedy. That's nothing short of a tragedy. She's in her prime of career, and all she just likes to run and compete. So, I think there's a lot of, I get comments on my Instagram of just me doping, and and everybody is getting that. I understand everybody being suspicious of Bauerman now. I've been it's so frustrating to even deal with it, but it's I don't blame people for being suspicious. If you just hear, well, somebody on Bauerman tested positive.
Right.
I understand if you just knew that, you would be like, all of Bauerman is dirty. None of Bauerman is dirty. It's just
yeah.
But I think it's never going to go away, and I think we have to come to terms with that no matter, even if she is vindicated, it's always going to be, somebody's going to say that Bauerman's dirty, Shelby cheated, and the best thing we can do now is just get Shelby to start running again, because hopefully in 20 years they'll forget about this and be able to see that she could win a gold medal or something like that,
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Now I feel bad saving this till the end, because it's kind of like a downer mood.
It is a downer. It is a downer.
Damn it. God damn it. And ending this podcast is not the right note here. Okay. Well, what do we have to close this thing out that's a little more positive for the people? Do you have any, any words of wisdom, any shout outs, anything that you want to plug here? I mean, obviously from myself, from Adam, who's not here, our co-host, and then all of us at all of our fans as well. We get more requests to have Bowerman Track Club people on the podcast than anything else. People love following you guys and women both, get tons of requests, and you guys are obviously crushing it across all events, all countries, different nationalities on the team. And so it's absolutely fun to watch. So I'll say that from my positive perspective is that there's tons and tons of people for all the stupid comments that you get on Instagram, just because of this Shelby case. There's tons and tons of people out there rooting for you and for everyone else on the team, including myself. So, we're super excited to watch you guys at the Olympics. So that's my positive note to end on. Anything that you want to plug and shout out for the world right now.
I feel like I've already said too much, frankly. I'm perhaps in a situation where I shouldn't speak on the Shelby case, but it's already out there. So just know, thank you. We appreciate it when you guys support us.
Of course. I mean, we're excited to see you at the Olympics. We're just a few weeks away. I hope the rest of the training continues to go well. The little bit of remainder here that you have at altitude goes well. I guess at the training camp now, are the Bauerman folks that did not make the Olympic team, are they on a rest period right now? Are they back at altitude training with y'all and they're going to race more? How is the training situation looking like?
I mean, yeah, I think maybe the Central might race, but everyone else is pretty much just going to be locked in.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just all set on the 10K for the most part. Yeah.
Perfect.
Girls in the 5. Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Woody, for coming on. Really appreciate the time. Appreciate us making the cut on the selective media outreach. Seriously, sincere appreciation for all of that, and rooting for you big time at the Olympics in both events, and Grant as well, and everyone else on Bauerman that made the cut. So it's going to be an exciting race to watch.
Yeah, it will be. Thank you, man. I hope this rivals Jenkins, and I wish we would have had Grant here so we could go against Jenkins and Craig in the beer mile.
Oh man, I think if you guys are down to set this up at some point, I would love to, even just underground, to get a little fun little beer mile action going, and maybe post Olympics here, if you are down, and anyone else, if you guys want to do an in-person podcast and maybe have a couple of beers and have a follow-up episode to this, we would absolutely be down to come to wherever you guys are and make that happen. That'd be a blast.
Sounds good to me. I'm down. Sounds good.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thanks, Woody. Cheers. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Shout out to Woody Kincaid for coming on. Sounds like we're actually going to do a follow-up with him after the Olympics. The goal is to do that in person. Would love to sit down with Woody, have some beers after he wins that Olympic gold medal or some Olympic medal. I don't want to put any pressure on the situation here, but hope you enjoyed the conversation with Woody. Check out his podcast, Price of a Mile, if you want to learn more about his college days, his early Bauerman days. That's a great podcast to listen to as well. Make sure you're also using our code BeerMile, all uppercase, no spaces, for 20% off and free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com. Make sure you take care of your balls. It's an important thing to do. Educate yourself about testicular cancer. Manscaped also, it's a charitable cause. They donate profits to education around testicular cancer. So make sure you're using our code Manscaped. You're supporting the podcast. You're supporting your nuts. It's a great investment for everyone involved. That was a really weird thing to say. So lastly here, going to give you the 30-second rundown on the Ruthie, the Exile Brewing Company Ruthie Gold Lager. And then we're also going to get some guest ratings as well. I'm going to give it an 8 on taste, an 8 on drinkability, and a 10 on X Factor, because look at this can. She is pouring 2 beers onto 2 pint glasses on her bosom. Graphic designer, definitely making a couple $100K a year plus stock options. Good for him. If you're on Robinhood, I would suggest investing in the IPO for Exile Brewing Company. Boys in the background. We got some boys here in Colorado with me today. What do we think of the Ruthie Gold Lager? Let's give me some takes here. Do we have any words, or do we just want to point our fingers in the air?
2 thumbs up.
I'm gonna go with 10. Every time I'm at Exile and I'm eating dinner, I get a Ruthie. They have some good food too.
Oh, he also said they have some good food. And if you recognize that voice, that is George from the Tin Mom Elite episode. George is back. All right. What do we have from Bill?
Hey, this is Bill here. Longtime listener, first time caller in. Proud to be here. Really want to say I support the work you guys do. It's just so great. As far as the Exile Ruthie, not much to say, except it's an easy drinker and nothing better than that. You just feel good drinking that, and then you take a look at the can, and it's like, oof, let's go. Yeah. Let's have another. Thank you, sir. Can I have another?
That is the best review that I've ever heard on this podcast. Way better than Adam and I could do. full supporter. Anyone else? Would you like to make a reappearance?
Sure, why not?
All right. For the very early listeners, episode 10, the holiday special, we have fellow T-shirt run world record holder, J-Rob here in the house. Give me a rating on drinkability and eatability on the hot dog and the Miller High Life, please.
So I shaved half of like the burnt crisp off. That side's pretty good. But I like the crunch, so hats off to the grill master, Will. I'd give it a 2 out of 10.
A 2 out of 10 on the eatability. Okay, how about the drinkability on that Miller High Life?
Oh, this is just the champagne of beers. It's a 9 out of 10 easily.
Okay, so there we have it. Do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to give a rating? Last call, 1, 2, 3, last call. Nico, anything?
It's empty.
It's a great
It's empty.
beer.
That's all he has to say.
It's empty.
I'd say it's a great beer. My first from Iowa, besides Busch. And
It's not from Iowa. We can pretend.
It's basically from Iowa.
I
Busch
mean-
is an Iowa beer.
I mean, basically, if you have anything that's, at least a corn cob, you're looking at an 8 out of 10. And, with the graphic design, you got to go at least a 9 too.
Drinkability is 100 out of 10 because he drank the whole thing in like 2 seconds. Okay. Thanks to this first ever studio live audience. I think that'll do it on this episode. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And
You're welcome.
thanks to our 5 live listeners. It's probably more than we're going to get on the audio recording. Hey, all right. Cheers, y'all.